Hey everybody, with Pikmin 3 Deluxe just been released, I've been getting a lot of people asking me if I'm going to be buying Pikmin 3 Deluxe, and if I'm going to play it or whatever. I'm going to follow that up with making this proper video that highlights my honest opinions on the Pikmin franchise and why I'm not super invested in it like I used to be. But I need to quickly clarify, because if I don't, anytime I mention I don't like a Pikmin game, suddenly everyone thinks that I'm not making plush videos anymore, and no, please don't draw this conclusion. Let me be very clear. I write Pikmin fanfiction because I'm unhappy with the writing and direction that Nintendo is doing with Pikmin. I'm unhappy with how Nintendo treats this franchise. I write my own stories on how I'd prefer to see Pikmin as a franchise be handled. Of course, that's up to your own opinion, if you agree with me or not, which I don't expect any of you to agree with me necessarily. Okay, so to me, Pikmin 2 is a fantastic game, and it's in my top 3 favorite games of all time, hands down. However, for me, every other Pikmin title is a chore to play. Every other Pikmin title does not interest me. Pikmin 2 truly is the only one I actually enjoy and like. Again, this video is about my opinions, so again, if you like the other games, that's fine. I really don't. Pikmin 1's kinda, but I rarely ever play it. Pikmin 3 Deluxe has already proved to be a better version of Pikmin 3, don't get me wrong, but because I didn't enjoy Pikmin 3 to begin with, I don't think I'm going to enjoy Pikmin 3 Deluxe even with the improvements. I won't spoil anything, but the extra content they added does not interest me. See, Pikmin 2 worked well for me because functionally it was more of an expansion to Pikmin 1 while also being a sequel. It kept most of the elements of Pikmin 1 but doubled, even tripled the amount of content within the game. Pikmin 1 was okay, I mostly liked the mechanics and the aesthetics, and Pikmin 2 expanded on them significantly. Pikmin 3 is more of a true sequel. It revised the mechanics and mostly kept the aesthetics, kinda. Okay, so to me, Pikmin 2's aesthetic is spelunking in human ruins. That's where you spend most hours of the game. Mechanically, it was actually more of an action game than a strategy game. It focused on boss fights, dungeon crawling, and just collecting everything. There never really was a time limit. You're supposed to take your time and just go at it and blow everything up. It kind of let me invest myself into the world without the time pressure. Pikmin 1 had this lonely alien aesthetic. And it's a little bit more difficult for me to describe, but mechanically it was extremely different for an RTS. It focused a lot on puzzle solving under a time limit. Pikmin 3 felt like a return to Pikmin 1. There was less spelunking and more time limit puzzle solving. Pikmin 3's aesthetic is just human gardens. Gardens. You know, Mario got to go to space. Samus gets to go to alien planets. How come Pikmin, a sci-fi story, is always in a garden? Nintendo has tied Pikmin's aesthetics to gardens for some reason. But Pikmin 1 was just nature, not gardens. Pikmin 2 was more ruins, old pipelines, concrete and metal structures. I was hoping that Pikmin 3 would do more of that, but they just did gardens. And I do know that Hey Pikmin tried to do some different areas, but I was just hoping to see that in a mainline game. Pikmin 3's aesthetic also focused too much on being cutesy. The Pikmin are just too overly cutesy. The music is overly cutesy. Pikmin 1 was pretty strange and lonely. Pikmin 2 felt like a triumphant adventure. Pikmin 3 was just gardens. I don't know. Nintendo has used Pikmin's cuteness to sell the games, and that's fine. But there's so much more to Pikmin than just being cute. You know, the game can be dark. The circle of life is kind of scary. You know, the Pikmin die. They die a lot, actually. Gardens are, gardens may be cuter than ancient ruins, so I guess that's probably why they went with the gardens, because it matches their cute aesthetic, so I get it. But the new creature designs were also more cutesy, and when they weren't, they were always trademark Nintendo. The big eyes mean the weak point, bizarre, contradicting biology to pre-established lore. It's they don't acknowledge that, hey, how could this actually make sense in reality? And Pikmin 2 kind of did that, but Pikmin 3 kind of forgot about that. There's a lot I have to say about the aesthetic design of Pikmin 3, but it's a huge reason why I just simply dislike the experience. I know this feels like it's all over the place, and that's because, honestly, there is a lot to this conversation. But here's the thing. Truly, the root cause of me not liking Pikmin 3 is because of my expectations were just being set way too high. In the years of hype leading up to Pikmin 3, which I'll mark roughly as 2009 to 2013, I was searching for a game that captured the feeling of being tiny in a large forest or large ruins, facing large enemy creatures through teamwork, a narrative focused on the circle of life and gathering things. There's that collect them all feeling when I bring home the spoils of defeating the enemies. That sort of vibe that Pikmin 2 kind of gave me. 2012 finally revealed Pikmin 3, and it looked promising from the limited footage we got. I just got really, really hyped. I had myself up. And the thing is even though I was hyped, I had already found a different game that kind of hit all the aesthetics and mechanics I wanted for Pikmin 3. Because in 2012 to 2013, Monster Hunter 4 was being advertised for the 3DS, and honestly, this game was a spoil. A 3DS game does not deserve to have this much content. I mean, I probably put like 600 hours at least, close to 1,000 maybe, I don't know, a lot of hours into this game, and I never 100%ed it. This game gave me the feeling of adventure, it gave me that spelunking feeling into the giant caves filled with creatures and treasure. The monsters, like the crab and the insect monsters, could easily be placed into a Pikmin game. I mean, this guy is kind of a Wollywog, and this guy is kind of a Snagrit. It also has the different elemental hazards like Pikmin. I'm literally in a giant forest, just like in Pikmin. You see, at this point, I had already fallen in love with Monster Hunter 3, which came out a couple years before this, but when Monster Hunter 4 was being advertised, it already looked like the greatest game ever made. It was everything that I wanted in a game, and so Monster Hunter kind of became my Pikmin 3. As more gameplay footage arrived for Pikmin 3, I felt that it was just a retread of Pikmin 1, which I was like, I'm kind of over that. And when I played Pikmin 3, I was just disappointed. It was partially, again, from years of overhyping, and also because Monster Hunter literally spoiled my expectations of a grand, epic adventure. And it's funny, because how does a Wii U game made by Nintendo have less content than a 3DS game made by a third-party developer? It's even more embarrassing when you compare Monster Hunter to Hey Pikmin, which is a 3DS game, or compare Luigi's Mansion to Hey Pikmin, because Luigi's Mansion was a GameCube game, and they ported it to the 3DS. There's so many games that are just leagues above what Hey Pikmin was on a technical level. And it's just unfortunate because a lot of people really wanted Pikmin in its true three-dimensional form. And that was absolutely possible in the 3DS. It's just Nintendo never took the initiative to make it happen. And I think it would have sold way, way better if it was not Hey Pikmin and if it was a true Pikmin 4. But whatever, I can't control them. I understand that there's other things that went on there, and I can't just be like, oh, just another Hey Pikmin complainer. But look, I believe that Pikmin 2 was truly a passion project. Pikmin 1 and 3 were both kind of made as tech demos to sell the graphical capabilities of the GameCube and the Wii U, respectively. And for that reason, I wonder if Pikmin 2 was an anomaly and so different, and it was because it was a passion project and not an advertisement for a console. I actually do believe that the reason why Pikmin 2 is so good is because it wasn't made to sell a console. I've been a Monster Hunter fan since 2010, and I continue to enjoy that series way more than Pikmin. Obviously, they are very different games, but before I could ever get back into Pikmin, I would love to see Pikmin take notes from a game like Monster Hunter, even Breath of the Wild, something that's a bit more than just Pikmin. This is difficult to describe, but I want to see Pikmin as a sci-fi adventure. I wanted them to acknowledge that planet Earth is more than just gardens. I mean, dude, we got mountains and stuff. I want to see the Pikmin treated with respect, not as cutesy, expendable mascots. I want the enemy creatures to behave like they're actually part of an ecosystem, to have biological niches, not be generic, gimmicky game challenges. Like, frick, how hard is it to just have, like a circle of life stuff? Like, I want the predators to be able to eat things other than Pikmin. Why are Pikmin always on the bottom of the food chain? How does that make any sense if they're also predators themselves? I also want the series to dig deep into the mysteries of planet Earth's history and not just use it for aesthetic. We still haven't even been able to explore the planet at night. Pikmin Adventure proved that an action-based Pikmin game is possible. if they wanted to go the route of an action game. And even then, Wonderful 101 has also proved that not only can a Pikmin game be an action game, but every single Pikmin could have an individual character. They don't have to be expendable. Each one could be built on, and you could still have a fun, like, horde-based RTS game. I've been enjoying the ROM hacks for Pikmin 2. They're actually incredible. I really like playing these. They're pushing the game in directions I actually wanted to see, and I'm really enjoying them. So, again, these are my honest opinions. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Do you find that Pikmin is becoming stale? I sure do. Or do you think it should continue to go down the direction it's going down, which I don't think it should? Again, this is an opinionated discussion. It's not objective discussion, so please be respectful and honor that. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. But yeah, that's the reason why I've kind of given up on the Pikmin series, so there you go. Twig and Pik-pik I'll still obviously be making, though. I gave out on the Pikmin series a long time ago. This isn't new. But anyway, talk to you later. Bye.